Hello, everyone. It's Dr. Akin Marino. This is part 3 of self-awareness healing program or recovery program that we're going through. We have 7 weeks together, and each week I'm going to release one of this. So today we're going to talk about the emotional self. We're highly emotional people. Emotions, and you've heard it said that emotions are valid. But what exactly does that mean? I mean, does it mean that each time you feel an emotion that you are perfectly justified in feeling that emotion? If your child spills milk and you get upset at that child and you're angry, is that justified? Is that what validity means? Is all emotions valid? And perhaps the notion of correct versus incorrect is a wrong approach. When we talk about validity of emotions, we're not talking about something right. It's not a measure of correctness or incorrectness. It's a measure of awareness. It's a measure of awareness. So basically, when we talk about emotional validity, is we want you to know that you're feeling the anger. We want you to know that you're feeling the bitterness. We want you to know that you feel the fear. A lot of people cannot acknowledge their own emotions, and that becomes a huge problem years later. They didn't even know they've been carrying this anger for 30 years, and sometimes people have emotional breakdowns just because you cannot acknowledge or you are not aware of your emotions. So it's important for us to be aware of our emotions. What are you feeling right now? At this moment of social isolation, of distancing, what are you feeling? What have you been feeling the past week? What have you been feeling the past year? Think about your relationships. Think about yourself and the things that you've experienced. I was doing a group training, and one woman told me that she said, "Well, I didn't feel anything," and I said, "Okay, it's okay. Well, do you know why you didn't feel anything?" And she said, "I can't go to the places you want me to go. I can't." And as I was talking, she starts crying. She's like, I can't do it. Because people are afraid that if they go there, they're going to break down. If they go there, but you have to walk through some dark places to actually get to the light. Because remember, what we're after now is total, complete, and whole. We're tired of living from, just different parts of our lives. We're tired of just being the mental person or the emotional person or the physical person or just the spiritual person. We want to be total and complete. We want wholeness. We want tenacity. We want resiliency. We want to come from a place of joy and a place of hope. In order to do that, we have to acknowledge some things. How about the utility of emotions? Before, in the old days, people, the world was nasty. The world was short. It was nasty. People had to fight mortal danger. Somebody was going to kill you. I mean, have you watched those historical movies? Somebody was going to kill you. So you had to protect yourself. They built castles to protect themselves, strongholds, And so, when we talk about fear and danger, there was a need for the sympathetic nervous system because it was going to say that there is danger, flashing, there's danger. But now it's not that we have people that are coming with guns to kill us. Well, hopefully not. But there are interpretation of events and the fear of the unknown and the fear of uncertainty, paralyzes people. Fear of failure, fear of all kinds of things. The people have fear of tomorrow. And I'm going to, I think one of our modules on this is about contentment. I'm going to talk about. I think it's the 7th one. Fear of because most of the reasons why we are so afraid is because we're not satisfied with today. And you're like, what if this is it for me? What if this is it? So the question is, what if this is it? What if this is it? What are you going to do? What if this is it? Are you going to die of are you going to die there, or are you going to try to make the best of the situation? Are you going to make a change? What if this is it? What if this is it? When we talk about spiritual self, you're going to find out how to expand your space, because there is a way to expand your space. There's a way to expand your space. So it is important to know that when adrenaline is pumping and cortisol is pumping, we're in a constant state of arousal. That means you're nervous, you're anxious, you have headaches, and it's constant. And what is supposed to be a temporary system becomes a permanent system in your body. And we have to calm it down. We have to shut it off. You're not in danger. You're not in danger. And if you are really in danger, I need you to get out of there and get help. If you're not in physical or emotional danger, we need to turn some things off. Does that make sense? I know it's difficult, but we're going to do it. So let's talk about emotional arousal. So in order to make the best use of our emotions, it becomes important to be able to identify what we feel at any given moment. We talked about that, emotional validity. So psychologists have developed the theory of granularity, which basically says we can identify two different primary characteristics in our emotions. Basically, the level to which they excite us, known as arousal, and the degree to which we experience them as either pleasant or unpleasant, which is valence. So arousal is basically how excitable we get, happiness and joy, arousal, and also those arousals, pleasant or unpleasant, because joy and happiness and anger is arousal, So when it's the pleasantness or unpleasantness of it, it's called valence, and we'll talk about it in a minute. So emotions that are characterized as having high arousal will be emotions that I just identified, like joy and anger, enthusiasm, anxiety, high arousal. So low arousal emotions, will be depression, but also calm, when you just feel calm. So when your thoughts begin to race and you're pulsating and you begin to feel an emotion or group of emotions, that's high level of arousal. You're being aroused. Does that make sense? So when you're being aroused, when you're angry, when you're excitable, that's arousal. And valence is, are those emotions, those arousal, are they pleasant or unpleasant? So, are we experiencing a pleasant condition or an unpleasant condition? So emotions that are unpleasant tend to indicate that something needs to change. So when I'm having an anger or bitterness, when I have those emotions, it is just an indication that something needs to change. That's all it's telling you. Either in myself or in my environment. That's it. That emotions are indicators. So it's come to tell you something. It's a messenger. It's telling to tell you something. So when I have unpleasant valence, it means that there is a need to change in my life. Now, emotions that are pleasant side of the valence scale indicate that whatever is happening works. This thing I'm doing gives me joy. This thing I'm doing gives me peace. This thing I'm doing makes me feel good about myself. And most of those things will keep doing them. Sometimes even if they're not good for you. So when you're having a good time, you're experiencing emotions on pleasurable side of the valence continuum. Just so we know this is all little teachings. And so categories of emotions. One useful way of thinking about emotion is to divide them into categories based on how they help us to perform. We would assign one category for emotions that always help us to perform well. And so emotions such as enthusiasm, confidence, tenacity, optimism will fall into high performance emotions. Those are high, and then those are, we want those emotions. These high performance emotions are characterized as being high arousal emotions. And, when we have them, we're focused, we're open, we're available. Another category of emotions is that we can talk about are emotions called blue emotions. You've heard of people say you have the blues. Blue emotions, they're emotions such as dejection, rejection, boredom, disappointment. These emotions are marked by qualities of low arousal and a narrow and closed focus. Remember, those high performance emotions, they're characterized by openness and wideness and folk, they bring people together. They're outward going. These other emotions are inward. They are more close focus. That's when you begin to push people away. That's when you begin to narrow your focus because you are experiencing this particular emotions. Does that make sense? Okay. So a third category of emotions that we need to discover that can either improve our performance or impede them. They include anger and anxiety and frustration. They're called swing emotions. Excuse me. They're called swing emotions because they can swing either way into either motivating a better performance or interfering with a good performance. So take anxiety, for example. So if I have anxiety about a particular test, and because of that, and because of my anxiety and fear for that test, I begin to study more. It's leading me into a positive or better performance. That's good. But if the anxiety leads me to not studying, into withdrawing, then that is a negative performance. Does that make sense? So it can swing, this kind of emotions can swing you either way. Okay. So it's not necessarily that anger is bad, it's how is it moving you. So if the anxiety made the person, if it makes you to freeze up, if it makes you to withdraw, then it has a blue emotion reaction on you, where the other one had a high performance emotion reaction on you. Does that make sense? All right. So swing emotions are characterized. Give me one quick moment here. Let's see. Okay. So swing emotions are able to move you either way. So another last one is a fourth category of emotions that usually doesn't get, talked about because they're neutral status, they're neutral states. How No matter how low arousal or wide focus emotions such as calm and satisfactory they're still high performance emotions, and we need more of that. We need more calm in our lives. We need more satisfaction in our lives. And so when we talk about emotional healing, I always think of the verse in Psalm 23 when it says, he leads me beside the still waters and he restores my soul. He leads me beside still waters and restores my soul. Sometimes our emotions just need to be restored. So if you've ever felt depressed, then you can probably understand why raising your arousal level might be helpful for you. The trick to emotional intelligence, when we talk about that, is to recognize how you're feeling and determine what needs to be done in order for you to feel differently. Does that make sense? So I'm not just going to sit into this emotion that is bringing me down. Is what can I do to change it? Because emotions can change. The emotion is just energy in motion. So fortunately, in the case of blue emotions, there are several ways in which we can increase our arousal levels and thereby put our emotions into the high performance category of enthusiasm and optimism. That's where we want to be. Some of the things are like exercising. And we talked about if some of this exercise can be meditative exercise. For if you listen to the last to the last video, we talked about meditative exercise, which is like swimming, like walking. Those are good for you. You can listen to upbeat music. Listen to upbeat music. Those are good. And you sing. Singing is good. The Beatles say, take a sad song and make it better. Not only is the physical act of singing a kind of message for a massage for your lungs, it is a message to your entire body that all is okay. You're signaling to every part of your body that all is well when you sing. So your vocal cords, begin to vibrate. The energy level is increased, and this is one of the way to display joy and make yourself feel better. I sing. I don't have the best voice, but I sing all the time. You can say something, and my kids make fun of me. You can say something, and I'll turn it into a song. Turn into a song. It's your body needs that. And then if you can't make up songs, put on some music and sing along, and then play. Don't forget to play. Remember, a child's work is play, so don't forget to play. Laugh. Tap into that inner child and reawaken that sense of optimism and enthusiasm and dream again and just in tap into that vigor of play. That's what we want. So how do we decrease arousal? Because sometimes you want to increase it, and sometimes you need to decrease it. Like I told you, people that suffer trauma and things like that. While increasing your arousal level can be an excellent way to effectively dealing with low arousal emotions, feeling high levels of emotional arousal is not always helpful. The key is to understand the balance of the high arousal emotion. If it's on the pleasant side of the spectrum, there's no need to change anything. But if your emotion is unpleasant, then you probably need to lower your arousal level. In the example about, we talked about anxiety and test taking, too much arousal could make a person freeze up. So that is not what we want. This is why when somebody feels anxious or angry, it is common for another person to tell them to calm down. Unfortunately, this never helps, because rationally you're telling them to calm down, but it doesn't help. So a lower level of arousal allows you to reassess your situation. That's why we have to kind of get it low, reduce it, to reassess your situation. And a wider focus allows you to explore the possibilities that wouldn't have occurred to you in a state of anger or frustration or bitterness. So here's some suggestions. Breathe. Let's do it again. Take deep, slow breaths. You can breathe out through your nose or through your mouth. It helps slow down your respiration and allows the flight or fight feelings to dissipate. You can just feel yourself calming down. Try some of the techniques we talked about in the third module, and this might help you. Relaxation techniques. So we talked about exercise, and I talked about the type of exercise that you should do. Low impact exercise. And then another thing is shout. It's not shouting at people. That's not what we're talking about. But finding a private and a quiet place to scream your lungs out actually calms you down. Try it. Ah! 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 Something like that. It calms you down. It calms you down. Remember, we're trying to calm you down. So maybe this time is for us to heal our emotions. He leads me beside quiet waters and restores my soul. And one of the other things I do is I tell people to put their hands right here and feel your heartbeat. This is touch healing. And heal yourself. My emotions are healed. They're trustworthy and they're made whole. That's when you're well. That's when you're okay. And you're loved. Can you do that? It's easy. And it works. All right? So emotional healing is important. Physical healing is vital. By the end of this, we'll be completely, totally made whole. So if you have any questions, let me know. You can reach me at info@akinmarino.com. At Instagram is at Dr. Akin Marino. At Twitter is at Dr. Akin Marino. And if you're watching this on Facebook, just you can IM me, But we are all in this together. And we want just waves of healing to blanket this world. When Christ came, he came to make us whole. He came to show us a way to wholeness and healing. Heal our spirits, get us reconnected back to heaven. Heal our minds so we can understand the thoughts that are vital to our thriving on this earth. So our emotions can keep us motivated and our physical bodies can carry us where it needs to. So I wish you well. Shalom.